Hello and welcome to today's video. Today's video is about the fall color challenge that was a collab both on Facebook and Instagram, and then on the 16th those of us who wanted to upload like a YouTube video were supposed to do that. Of course, in my usual fashion, I'm late. I also apologize if you hear like noises. They're doing construction in our building today on a Sunday, and that usually never happens, but I really can't film any other day this week, so I'm gonna try to push through it. But this was a collab that was originally started by, let me make sure I say the name, Beauty by Angela, and I will link her information below. I think she started it, she shared it to the Pantastic Ladies group, and this collab ran for 5 days last week on Instagram and on Facebook. They were posting photos 5 days of the week. So the first day was orange. Let me make sure I get this right. Orange. The second day was burgundy or red. The third day was a green look, and the fourth day was a yellow look. And the fifth day was a create your own fall inspired look. So I tried to get at least a photo or some sort of like small video of my eyeshadow looks for this past week. And again, sorry that this is going up late, but let's just go through what I used. So my first look, my orange look, I decided, and I really am someone who likes to use more than one palette to do looks. So I kind of challenged myself this week to try to use one palette only. I think there was only one day where I ended up using 2 palettes. But my first orange look came from my Modern Renaissance palette, and I've been doing a lot of really bolder orange looks, and most of those looks come from my Morphe 3502 palette. But I wanted to use this guy because this one has some really sophisticated orange tones in it. So what I ended up doing was using burnt orange like in my crease, Realgar on like my inner and outer like corner, and then I took Primavera, and then I also think I had a little bit of a ColourPop shadow in the shade Fringe, which is very similar to Primavera but maybe just a little bit more sparkly, and I popped it right in the center, and it created like a nice orangey halo eye. Very fall appropriate. I enjoyed it, and this palette to me is a very great neutral palette, but it also can be used for certain things like, you know, obviously some reds, pinks, and oranges. So that was day 1 for me. So day 2 was a burgundy or red eyeshadow look, and for that I decided, I normally pull from my 3502 palette because it has these like really vibrant reds, but I've also worn that look in a video recently, so I decided to go for something a little bit more. I'm not typically drawn to burgundy tones. Like burgundies, I don't know, I feel like they look fine on me, but they just don't get me excited. When I see burgundies in palettes, I usually like kind of roll my eyes because I feel like they're in almost every palette, and it's just not a color that I'm excited by. But I decided to use my the Grinch palette, mostly because it has this kind of red burgundy glitter shade, and hopefully you can see that. I've used it a couple times. This was not my first time using this glitter, but I did end up taking Cave here and putting it in my crease. I used this shade on the outer corner, this shade, this red shimmer shade all over my lid, and then over the top of that I went in with that glitter shade right there called Naughty. And I actually really I think that the glitter shade helps me like that burgundy color a little bit more, makes it more exciting. I thought it was very pretty, very feminine look, and yeah, so I was very happy to be able to pull this out and have an excuse to use it. Honestly, I don't give this palette enough love because I just have so many palettes, but you know, I'm doing my best here. So that was day 2. Day 3 was a green look, and it came from my Morphe 35M Boss Mood palette. When I look at this palette, I only care about the greens in this palette. Like these olivey tones to me are just really pretty. Now, having used it, the first time I used it, the first couple times, I was really into these green looks. The more I use this palette, the more I kind of think that some of them I have to build up a little bit too much. Like, I don't know, these shades end up looking very similar. If I want a deeper olivey green, I have to kind of mix it with one of these, mix some of these with some of these, and I don't like, I mean, again, I should know that this is a Morphe palette. It's not, I didn't pay that much money for, you know, this many shades, but I think that I wanted this to be my perfect olive green palette, and it's not, but that's okay. It's still really pretty. But yeah, I think what I ended up doing that day was mixing these 3 here to build up my crease color, and then outer V color was like these over here, and then I ended up going in, and I have to really dig like my finger into these shimmer shades because for some reason they just seal up, but if you dig hard enough they come off fine. So again, that's part of my criticism of this palette, is that I feel like you have to really kind of dig into some of these because the pigment's there. It's just that for some reason it's hard to pick up, and I usually always use shimmers with my fingers. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe the oils are like sealing these things up, but it works. It's just not my favorite. But I do think that these, if the quality was a little bit better and I just had these green shades, I think I would be kind of smitten, but it's a little bit more work than I like to have to kind of get this to look the way I want it to. Okay, moving into day 4, that was the yellow look day, and for that I did use 2 palettes because I wanted to use Subculture. To me, this is like the most beautiful color palette ever, and I probably could have used this for green, but I really wanted to dig into these like mustardy yellows here. These are gorgeous, so I definitely used these 2 in my crease and kind of all over my lid and just kind of blew out the colors. And there's no real, like this Adorn shade, it's probably, it's more of a bronze, it's not really a gold. And I wanted just a nice yellowy kind of gold to slit on top right in the middle. And for that I ended up grabbing my Violet Voss Rainbow palette. My favorite shade in this palette, believe it or not, is this pearl shade here. And it's not, it looks white in the pan almost, but when you swatch it out, it has this really pretty, I don't know if it'll pick up on camera, it has this really, really beautiful like yellowy green kind of shift to it. It is my favorite. When I bought this palette, I bought it for the pink and like the orange and the yellow and these blue right here. Like those were the shades that most excited me, and then the one I ended up loving the most probably looks almost the most boring out of the palette. But I love that shade, and I think it pairs perfectly with any kind of yellow as like a topper shade. So gorgeous. So that is the one day that I used more than one palette, but please forgive me because in my opinion, it pays off. All right, day 5 is a create your own look kind of day, and I haven't disclosed this on my channel yet, but recently I decided to splurge on an item that I honestly got a super killer deal on. So I did not shop the Sephora sale that's like from the US. I thought about it, I looked, and then all of a sudden I just managed to like look through my promotion email in my Google email, and usually I just ignore it completely. But I ended up seeing an email from Sephora in Sweden, which normally the price of Sephora in Sweden is way too expensive for me and I don't even buy from them. But I ended up opening the email, and for some reason they had this palette. So in the US it retails for $129. Well, when I opened the sale page, it was retailing for full price. It was retailing for like $85, and then they had 25% off that or something along those lines. So here's the deal. I looked at it for a couple days and I was like, wow, that makes this palette, whatever the sale was at the time, it made the palette half off. Like it was $60-something, $65 or so. And I was thinking to myself, there's no way that's real. So I went to go buy it because I was like, let me go see if I can go through and like buy it. And it was sold out, and I was like, okay, that's why. It's not real. It's one of those things where I don't know if you've ever seen, like, you go through and you're like, that deal's too good to be true. Oh, of course it's sold out. So I did put my email in. I was like, well, email me if it ever comes back in stock, and we'll see if it comes back in stock in this like short little 4-day sale that they were doing. And sure enough, like I ended up going back like in the middle of the night, hadn't gotten an email yet, and this palette had restocked. And I always wanted to try Natasha Denona palettes. So what I ended up doing was going ahead and checking out with this palette, and I was terrified. I was like, what did I just do? I've never spent that much money on any makeup item in my collection ever. It's probably in fact double the price of anything I've ever purchased in my collection. Like everything in my collection I've got on sale pretty much, and this was, in my head I was like, this is it. Like if I don't buy this palette now, I'll never try a Natasha Denona palette because I don't think it'll ever get on sale for more than what it is. Like, you know, I'll never get it cheaper than half off, in my head is what I was thinking. And I've always been curious about this palette. This one is not my favorite. Like I want the gold palette, but I ended up picking this one up. And anyways, I'm talking way too much about the entire sale process. So I ended up picking this up, and for that day 5 look, what I ended up doing was going in with these two, like in my crease, like as a transition to deepen up the crease, I used this shade. And then I ended up using Dragon Bite. This shade is gorgeous. It's like this really cool duochrome. From the side, it looks like kind of a red, or in the viewfinder, it almost looks like green straight on, or it's just the coolest shade. It's got a red base, it does shift kind of green, it kind of shifts, it looks like it almost has blue glitter in it, a little purpley kind of tone. I don't know, it's just so interesting. This by far to me is the most interesting and most beautiful shade in the palette, but I actually have been playing around with it. I've worn it about 6 times now, and I'm in love with it so far. I don't think the formulas are as crazy as people make them out to be, but I think if you like the color story enough of one of these and you're interested and you can find a good deal, then it's fun to try, but I by no means think anybody should maybe collect these. I personally don't ever see myself collecting these. But this particular color palette I've always been interested in, and the gold one I really, really want. But I will never buy it unless it gets on sale half off. So that's a future wish, but I don't ever think that'll happen. But yeah, this was my day 5 look. So that is it for my hashtag fall color challenge, the collab with the Pantastic Ladies group. Again, all the information is linked down below. Make sure you say hello in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.